what are the tabletop RPGs you need to get your hands on at Gen Con? We've got the scoop on the biggest and best can't-miss RPGs at this year's show.
Let the games begin!
Gen Con is just a few weeks away, and it's set to be a mammoth event for tabletop RPG fans. There are a ton of great releases coming out at Gen Con, and we've got the lowdown on some of the can't-miss games you'll want to get your hands on at this year's show. Or, well, sit down at a table and try for the very first time, because not all these games are going to be available for sale yet. Now, if you're not going to Gen Con, that's okay, because most of these games and or expansions will be available later this year, and those that aren't will be coming out, in 2024. So, without further ado, here's the can't-miss games that you'll want to try at this year's Gen Con. Number 1, Pathfinder: Rage of the Elements. This year's big Pathfinder release is Rage of the Elements, which not only contains a brand new class, the Kineticist, but also shakes up the entire Pathfinder cosmology. The book introduces 2 brand new elemental planes, the plane of wood and the plane of metal, and teases some of the changes we'll see in Pathfinder Remastered when it comes out later this year. Now, speaking of Paizo, we'll also get the announcement about whatever their plans are for 2024, the next class and the playtest for that class, along with probably a first look at the rulebook that will be coming out next year, so expect a big Gen Con from Paizo. Number 2, Marvel Multiverse RPG. The long-awaited Marvel RPG is finally coming out with what appears to be a very different rule set than what we got in the playtest last year. You may remember that a lot of folks had a lot of negative opinions about the original rule set, leading to a massive overhaul in subsequent playtest documents. It will be interesting to see if the game can actually build some positive buzz when Marvel officially releases this RPG, and we're excited to see exactly what happens when your fans basically tell you to rewrite the rules for your entire game during the playtest. Now keep in mind that Marvel has already announced 2 expansions and a campaign book for this RPG, so Marvel at least expects this game to do well. Number 3, Werewolf the Apocalypse. We are finally getting a new edition of Werewolf the Apocalypse, which is the World of Darkness take on werewolves trying to stave off the end times. While Werewolf definitely comes with, shall we say, some baggage, I've always enjoyed the idea of werewolves as eco-warriors, and I really hope that this game will be a good complement to Vampire the Masquerade, which has gradually risen in popularity over the past few years thanks to some great actual play shows and a steady release of new material. Number 4, Tales of the Valiant. Kobold Press is holding the first open playtest for Tales of the Valiant, its new and crunchier version of 5th edition. Tales of the Valiant got a lot of buzz when it was introduced during the OGL debacle earlier this year. You may remember all of that. But the reaction to the playtests were, well, mixed, in part because folks couldn't decide what exactly Tales of the Valiant did better than the 1 D&D playtests that were also being released by Wizards at literally the exact same time. Now, obviously, a lot has changed since Tales of the Valiant was first announced, and Kobold will have the chance to impress and change some hearts and minds during its open playtest at Gen Con. If you haven't gotten a ticket for that, you should do so. Number 5, Dragonbane. Dragonbane technically came out earlier this year in PDF form, but Gen Con marks the first chance we'll have to get our hands on the physical starter set. Now, Dragonbane might be the game I'm looking forward to the most at Gen Con because I absolutely love the quick starts balance between an elegant game system and just a little bit of crunch, as a treat. Plus, Dragonbane lets you play as a duck person, which is frankly the coolest thing ever. Number 6, Candela Obscura and Daggerheart. Critical Role's Darrington Press is coming back to Gen Con. I guess technically they're coming to Gen Con for the first time since, they came into being during the pandemic. But they're back! Critical Role is back, and they are bringing with them both Candela Obscura and Daggerheart at this year's show. Candela Obscura appears to be a riff on Blades in the Dark with a little bit of Vysen mixed in, with the Thieves Guild aspect replaced with a party of investigators exploring eldritch happenings in a Gilded Age-esque backdrop. We should also be getting a first look at Daggerheart, the new campaign-style fantasy tabletop RPG being published by Critical Role at this year's show. Now, the popular theory, which admittedly we have been pushing for some time on this here channel, is that Daggerheart will be replacing D&D in Campaign 4 of Critical Role, so we're excited to see it in action, to see what all the fuss is about. Now, keep in mind that neither of these games will actually be getting a release at Gen Con. We're simply getting a first look, and people will have a chance to actually sit down and play and try out these games. So, you know, not technically something you can buy, but if you're going to Gen Con, check it out. So, what tabletop RPG are you looking forward to the most at this year's Gen Con? Also, if you're going to Gen Con, be sure to say something in the comments, and you know, see if you can say hi to me. I'll be there the entire time. Looking forward to it. And don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.